Hey, what's up guys? Jane from Morning Dew Creations. I did this piece a long time ago and I put it out in my store and it didn't sell, and so then I ended up just using it for a display piece, and now it's kind of gotten beaten up. So I'm gonna redo it. I'm gonna start by lightening up the top, and I'm using sandy blonde. I may let some of that gray come through, but we'll see. Let's do it together. So what I'm doing now is I'm just getting a little bit of paint on. You can see that this top is in various states of drying, right? And so I'm just getting a little bit of paint on the brush, and I'm painting in the opposite direction. And what you can do is sort of create like grain lines. So here's an action shot of what it looks like, and I'm gonna let it dry just to make sure this is how I want it, but I really, really like it. And I may be able to just get away with that one coat, which would be great. I can always go back and add waxes and things later, but so far I love it. I'm gonna let it dry, and I'll be back. All right, so I've got Apothecary here with me, and I'm gonna get started with this. My intention is to do kind of a watercolor technique so that I'm not covering up any of these words. It'll be more like a wash. And so I've got my mister, and then I've got just, you can use a nonstick craft matter. This is kind of a plasticky coated piece of paper. And I'm just gonna use it as like a palette, and I'm gonna mix on there with water and paint. And so, let me show you what that looks like. And you can get the tiniest bit of paint with this DIY paint and water it down. It does not lose its pigmentation at all. And I want it to be pretty watery, so I'm gonna pull it out quite a bit. That looks pretty good. I may even spray just a touch more water on there. And that's kind of the consistency I'm looking for. Really thin, but you can still see the pigmentation. I've just got a wet paper towel here. I'm just gonna dab it onto my letters because I don't want those to disappear. And then so it's pulling off a little bit, but it's also leaving some on, which is what I want. So I like to do just little sections at a time because I want to come back in and add another color to this. So if I just do too much, I'm gonna get overwhelmed. So I think of each little area as its own little canvas, and then you have to incorporate it into the whole canvas, right? So I just like to take it off in little chunks. So I'm just gonna even out some of the pounce marks by very lightly wisping. And there's not a ton that are annoying, but there are some. If it starts to dry, just give it a mist. I'm gonna have to pounce this out a touch because that was a lot of water. All right, so I have a very wet brush and just a teeny weeny little bit of the Bohemian Blue. Teeny weeny. Back in with Apothecary. Blend that out a little bit. This is definitely a slower process. You really gotta build and make sure it's balanced all over the place. I'm gonna still go back in and take it off at the letters, so I'm not super worried about that right now. I just wanna make sure I get a good balance of color. It's not too dark, it's not too light. I do want to let some of that undercolor show through. So you gotta keep switching it up because it gets, you know, paint all over it pretty quick. I'm finding if you spray the piece rather than the rag, it's coming off a little bit easier. Okay, I'm dunking the terry cloth right in the paint too. I just want to leave a different kind of a mark. It's just fun. I'm really liking how this is looking right now, so I think I'm gonna just give it one more spray, just so I can create a little bit more drippiness. So I'm liking how it looks. I'm gonna let it dry. I might come back and build the color, but otherwise I might just come in with some colored waxes at the end. So I'm gonna let this sit. Some of it's still dripping and that water will kind of work its way through, and I'm gonna move on to the next section. Just wanted to get you a little bit closer up for the removal process. I'm just gonna spray it. Catch some of those drips real quick. I feel like it's too dark right here, so I'm just gonna dab away. Wipe off some of that butter. And can you see, like down here, how the water is making a real difference, just kind of flowing through the paint? It's really pretty. So oftentimes when you're painting, especially a big piece like this where each little area is its own canvas, you can have one area that you end up liking better than all of the others, right? And I kind of really like this worn, distressed, really decayed look that I ended up with over here. So I'm just gonna go back to these other two areas and just spray them with water and let the water work its magic, and I'm almost done. Holy moly, you guys, I am loving this. So I put a coat of Big Top on after I let all of this paint dry for 24 hours. So let the paint dry 24 hours, and then I put Big Top on. And now, to make this a tiny little bit more cohesive, I've got sandy blonde on the top, and then underneath this was like a linen color. So I'm gonna make my own sandy blonde wax to put in some of these lighter areas and bring this home. Okay, so I have my clear wax. I got just a plastic palette knife, spatula, just use whatever you want. I'm not gonna make a ton. You can always make more. This might even be too much. I might even take like half of that. And then I'm putting it in my really fancy mixing cup. And then I got the sandy blonde. And you know what I'm gonna do? Instead of dribbling this in there, I'm just gonna scoop some. And make a giant mess. But see, I'm not putting a ton in there. Can you see that? I might put 2 of these palette knives full, and if I had to guess at maybe I'll do 3. If I had to guess at a measurement, I'd say maybe a teaspoon. And then I'm just gonna smash it all together with this palette knife. All right, I've got this Paint Pixie flat top, and this is the 1/4 size. I do think these are being discontinued, but I still have a few on my website, depending on when you're watching this. I love them for putting on wax, especially in smaller areas. So I am just going to dunk in. I'm gonna let some of that creamy color stay. That just helps, you know, for depth and balance and helping to move the eye around the piece. You know what's so pretty about wax too is it just kind of softens everything up. It gives it a really nice, soft look, appearance.